afternoon, guys. My name is Owen O'Brien. I'm the International Officer for the Institute of Technology, Carlow, and I'm going to be running through a webinar this evening for you. We've scheduled about an hour to run through this webinar. It may take less, it may take more, depending on the types of questions that we get and the level of interaction that we get during the webinar. Just before I start doing anything, I just want to go through a bit of housekeeping first. For any students who are logging on, make sure on the right hand side of your screen you're seeing the words social stream. So on the right hand side, about halfway down the page, you should be seeing the word social stream, not the word chat. The other thing to make you aware of is that if you want to make any comments that I'll be able to view or ask any questions, make sure that you sign in using either your Facebook login details or that you've login details for Ustream. Okay, this will allow you to interact with me on the webinar and see the types of questions that you might have. In terms of how we're going to lay out the session, what I'm going to do initially is give maybe a 10 to 15 minute overview of why you should consider studying abroad in the first place, a small bit about Ireland, a small bit about IT Carlow, and then I can address some of your questions, queries, concerns that you might have. So we're going to begin now. You'll have to pardon me, I'm bringing up some PowerPoints as we speak, just to give my talk some structure. But one of the things I always like to do when I'm counselling students or speaking to students initially, and it's something I feel very strongly about, is projecting yourself maybe a couple of years ahead, and you find yourself in the marketplace looking for a job. And I certainly feel, and numerous academic studies back this up, that a period studying abroad, irregardless whether it's the USA, Australia, UK, anywhere in the world, it can enhance your employment opportunities, because to an employer or to a prospective employer, it says an awful lot about that person, about that individual, the journey that they've gone on, leaving home, leaving family, leaving friends, making new friends in a new country, new culture, potentially learning new languages. Not in the case with Ireland, but certainly for some countries that students go abroad to, that's something that they have to consider. So a period of studying abroad, like the opportunity that Institute of Technology can offer, and a lot of our sister colleges within the IOTI group, that can enhance your employability as a future employee. It also gives you an opportunity to learn an awful lot about yourself, for the simple reason that if you make a decision to come to Ireland, for example, then while we would pride ourselves on the level of service and offer that we give to the students, you are essentially going to be looking after yourself. So, you will be looking for your own accommodation, you'll be getting things set up over here, you will take responsibility for yourself, and that's also something that sets you apart when it comes to an interview scenario. A lot of employers will acknowledge and recognize that period of time spent abroad, that you've probably had to fend for yourself and look after yourself, and again, it gives you something slightly different to think about. The other thing that maybe studying in Ireland offers you, maybe a surprising statistic, I think apart from the USA, we're probably our closest English-speaking country to Canada. I think we're about a 6-hour flight from Toronto, so we're not that far away. But one of the great things about Ireland, and I'll come to location later on, is that we're on the very edge of Western Europe, and within a very small space, you have an awful lot of countries and cultures that you can potentially get exposed to. So again, depending on your budget, London is a 1 hour flight away from Dublin, for example. Edinburgh and Glasgow in Scotland is about 30-minute flight. Paris is a 1 hour flight. Madrid is a 2 hour flight. Barcelona is a 2 hour flight. Berlin is a 2 hour flight. So when you are studying in Ireland, there are potentially opportunities not just to experience Ireland, which in itself is a very beautiful country, but you will have opportunities to visit other parts of Europe and see parts of the world. Maybe without this opportunity, you wouldn't get to do it. I think one of the huge advantages that Ireland have through this arrangement with Colleges Ontario as well is that, particularly for Canadian students, it's a very low cultural barrier. Okay, we're English speaking, and to be honest, we're quite, from a cultural perspective, we are quite similar in many ways. So it's not as much of a learning process for a Canadian student, maybe for some of our non-native English speakers that come to IT Carlow, where it's probably a bit more of it can be a bit of a harder to adapt to life in Ireland. So the next thing I'm going to move on to is where we're located. So most of the students that come to us from Canada will fly into Dublin Airport. Okay, so there's direct flights that Aer Lingus offer, for example, from Toronto to Dublin, and if you go onto their website, I think you'll often find that there's discounted fares for Canadian students. If that's information that you're interested in getting, just let me know through KOM, and I'll forward on the link to you that you can maybe share with, not just with your. It's not just for students; it's also for family and friends who may wish to come and visit you should you make the decision to come and study in Ireland. But IT Carlow is located about 1 hour south of Dublin. Okay, so when you land in Dublin Airport, we're a 90-kilometre drive. Some days you can do it in an hour, other days it's an hour and a half. It depends on the traffic volumes. But as part of your tuition fee that you pay to us, the first time that you arrive in Ireland, we will pick you up at the airport. We'll have somebody there at the arrivals hall to pick you up and bring you to your accommodation in Carlow. So again, we acknowledge and appreciate that maybe the first time you come to Ireland, it can be a bit intimidating perhaps, and so we try and alleviate that fear, that intimidation that you might have by making sure that you're picked up by somebody and safely brought to your accommodation for the first day. One of the other advantages we have, at the moment, the Irish economy is strongly rebounding, and you'll notice in a lot of urban areas within Ireland, the main cities, one of the negative consequences of that economic growth is that rent prices in a lot of the cities are going up significantly. And so IT Carlow is quite fortunate in that most of our students will experience rental income which is on anywhere between 30 to 50% cheaper than what you'd find in the cities. So that's a very important point to consider for you and your parents if you make a decision to come study in the Institute of Technology Carlow, that the accommodation in the college tends to be a bit quieter or a bit cheaper. One of the other things I just want to address very quickly is that it's often something that I get around the name of the college, Institute of Technology Carlow. We are a university level institute. So we offered the exact same qualifications and programs that the universities offer. We were founded, we were established in 1970, but the concept for the Institutes of Technology, or the regional technical colleges as they were known back then, was to provide vocational training to apprentices in Ireland. And over time, our roles have evolved quite rapidly. So a bit like the colleges under the Colleges Ontario umbrella, we now serve a much broader base of degrees. So years ago, we were just offering diplomas, like you would experience, like a lot of the Colleges Ontario colleges currently offer. but now we offer a broad range of degree programs at different levels, and we also offer a range of postgraduate courses all the way up to PhD level. So within a very short space of time, we've very much elaborated our offering. And so I just want to alleviate one concern that sometimes comes up with on occasion with some students. They're worried that a qualification from an Institute of Technology is maybe not as recognised as a university level institute qualification. And all I can say to you on that point is that perception is incorrect. A degree from an Institute of Technology is very much worth as much on paper as what you would get from a university. And in many perspectives, the graduates that come out of the Institute of Technology sector are probably held in higher esteem by a lot of employers because they tend to see them as more job ready. And what I mean by that is, in a lot of our programs from engineering, for example, or business, computing, there's a huge focus on hands-on learning, which means that when students come out into the workforce, it's not as much of an adaptation to working life as it might be for the university graduates who maybe don't get that same level of hands-on learning. Okay, so I just wanted to address that aspect of it. IT Carlow itself, we're located in three parts of Ireland, all within the southeast of Ireland. Our main campus is in Carlow. We have also a small campus in Wexford Town, which is on the Irish Sea between the UK and Ireland. So it's a beautiful, picturesque little town in the southeast of Ireland, where we have about 1,000 students. We don't have too many students that actually go there, but at the moment we have 2 students there from Fanshawe who are studying their 4th year of their visual communications degree, and the feedback that we've had from them so far has been very positive. We also have a campus in Wicklow, which again is on the east coast of Ireland, about 30-40 minutes out of Dublin. Again, we don't have any international students, so the vast majority of our international students reside on our main campus, which is in Carlow Town. Carlow Town itself has an overall population of between 20 and 25,000 people, and the total student population in our Carlow campus is around 5,000 students. So what we say to prospective students is that Carlow is very much a student-centred town. A lot of the resources within the town are geared towards students, and a lot of the businesses in the town rely on the students for their trade. So as a consequence, you don't have to worry about the size. And if it is a thing, I often encourage our international students, when the weekends come or when the opportunities present themselves, unlike Canada, which is quite a vast country, you do have opportunities to travel all around Ireland when you're studying in IT Carlow. So like I mentioned earlier on, Dublin is about an hour away. Cork City, which is on the south coast, is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Limerick is about an hour and a half away. And Galway, which is a very beautiful city on the west coast of Ireland and near the Atlantic Ocean, is about 2 hours away. We also have a city close to the college called Kilkenny City, which is a medieval city. At one time it was the capital of Ireland. And the first week before college starts, we run an induction week for our international students. And one of the things we organise as part of the activities for that week is a trip to Kilkenny, where you can visit Kilkenny Castle and experience a medieval city. So that's just giving you a bit of background on Carlow Town itself. It is, because of its size as well, everything is generally within walking distance as well. So you are going to save hopefully money on transportation. Okay. As it currently stands, the total student population for IT Carlow is about 7,000 students, but like I mentioned, about 5,000 of those will be on our main campus, and about 4,000 roughly would be full-time students. In the coming years, given demographic pressures in the region, we do expect this number to expand, and our projections are that by 2020 we would expect to have around 9,000 students around our 3 campuses. Our 9,000 students, we have about 600 staff between academic and administrative programs, and we currently run 82 different programs. To give you an insight into how IT Carlow approach things, we've launched 2 new degrees, for example, this year, one in cybercrime and IT security, and that was based on a need that was identified within industry, which projects that there'll be vacancies of over 2 million suitably qualified workers in this area by 2020. And so IT Carlow good at tapping into areas where there are skill gaps in the economy and developing programs to meet the skills that are needed for those skill gaps. We've also started a brewing and distilling degree this year, which again is designed to fill a need within the Irish market to develop people with skill sets and competencies in that area. So hopefully that gives you an indication of the approach that we take to developing programs and why we develop it. We don't develop programs for the sake of it. We develop programs to ensure that employers who are looking for graduates with the requisite skills have them. As it currently stands, about 10% of our student population, full-time student population, is international. This year we have 15 Canadian students. This is only our second proper year in the Canadian market, so we're quite happy with the number of students that we're getting there. But we've about 90 nationalities represented on the IT Carlow campus, so it's quite a broad offering of students that we have on site. And again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, that multicultural aspect of our campus is very important. Again, from an employability perspective, it's very important for us to have our Irish students interacting with multinational students, and equally it's very important that our international students are interacting with Irish students. So moving on, one of the huge benefits that exist for particularly Canadian students is that you do not require a visa to come to Ireland. So last year our courses started on the 12th of September this year. I had a student that came to me, I think, on the 31st or the 1st of September, 31st of August or 1st of September. We were able to get him in. So you do have quite a strong opportunity that comes to study in Ireland once we give you an offer letter. That's all you require. The huge attraction in our partnership with Colleges Ontario, and indeed with some of our individual partners, is that we can offer Canadian students, particularly those from the Ontario region, the opportunity to obtain an honours degree in 1 or 2 years. So we're giving nearly full credit transfer for the degrees that you've, for the qualifications that you've undertaken in Canada. We also have a wide range of courses, which means that for the vast majority of students that approach KOM to utilise their services, we generally have an option open for them. And my advice to all students is make an application, make it to IT Carlow, make it to IT Sligo, give them look at the opportunities that are available to you, that are open to you, and it gives you a good opportunity to sit down then with your parents and assess which location best suits your needs. And from a comparative perspective, compared to the UK, compared to Australia, where a lot of Canadian students tend to go as well, Ireland is quite good value as well. Again, if you compare our fees to those markets, you'll find that we generally offer quite good value. And if you take into account the accommodation equation that I mentioned earlier as well, again, it becomes much more financially viable. The other thing I want to discuss is we offer a reduced tuition of €7,500, which is around 11,000 Canadian dollars, but that fluctuates depending on the currency exchange rates at the time. But a lot of the Canadian students that are studying with us at the moment have access to the OSAP funding. Okay. Now, a big part of my role is to assist any Canadian students with their application, and I'll help do all the paperwork for OSAP should you decide that you want to come to IT Carlow. And it's really worth investigating this now as to whether you would be eligible or entitled to OSAP funding, because it makes a huge difference. This type of funding isn't available to Irish students. It is available to Canadian students, and it does lessen the burden significantly for our Canadian students from a financial perspective. For those students who are entitled to OSAP, and for those who maybe aren't entitled to OSAP funding, we are CRA approved. Okay, so if your parents do pay for your fees, they are able to get some of it back from your revenue. Okay, if you obtain an honours degree, you are entitled to stay in Ireland for 1 year. It's not often an option that Canadian students take up, but that is there for you. When you come here, you are entitled to work 20 hours per week part-time, and you are entitled to work 40 hours per week part-time or full-time when you're not in college. Okay. And the last thing I want to point out to students is our graduates have a 92% employment rate. Okay, so that's taken from a small sample of students who attended our graduation ceremony. So again, that demonstrates that 9 in every 10 Canadian students are IT Carlow graduates have obtained employment within 6 months of graduation. Okay, so I'm kind of going to move away from things there now. I see some questions coming in, so I'd like to kind of address them. So let's see. So I see the first question I have here is from Humber Architecture, and they're asking me, could you speak a little about the architecture program and masters? I saw today with the information that Derek and Martin provided me from KOM that 5 students from Humber had the architecture program in Humber had signed up for our program, and basically we're in the process of signing an MOU with Humber College, and as part of that MOU we've agreed an articulation where graduates from the Advanced Diploma in Architectural Technology can come to IT Carlow and do 1 additional year to get your honours degree in Architectural Technology. Okay, so I spoke with your college coordinator, Aina's, I think, I can't remember Aina's second name, but essentially, to the best of my knowledge, you currently only have the option of studying abroad in the United States with one of your partner colleges there. This year, you will have the option of coming to study in IT Carlow. Our program would start in September 2017, and it would last through until May of 2018. Okay. Now, if the 5 students from Humber are online, one of the things we're offering in place for the coming academic year is that we're going to offer all applicants for our built environment program a reduction in fees of up to 40%. Okay, so where you would have been paying as a complete international student, you would be paying $9,750. As a Canadian student, you will be paying $7,500. But as a student in the School of the Built Environment, your fees would be €5,750. So it's quite a significant reduction in our fee costs. One of the things I'm not able to go through with you in depth at the moment, but I'm happy to schedule phone calls or maybe Skype calls with you individually, is to go through the program with you on a one-to-one basis. But the program is internationally recognized, and it also has a badge of honor with the Royal Institute of Architects as well. So it's an internationally recognized program, although best advice is that you speak with your professional body in your home country to establish that they will sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me in a few minutes. So hopefully that kind of gives you an overview of the opportunity that's available to you. Yeah, sorry, that's what I was saying. I would like to go through the curriculum for year 4 with you in more detail, but I don't have the information to hand at the moment. But if you do go on to www.itcarlow.ie, and if you look into our prospectus and look at year 4, you can see the curriculum there, and you'll also get a very brief overview of the program and some of the unique features of the program. I think sometimes they organise trips abroad to countries or cities like Barcelona, for example, to look at some of the structures in that city as part of the program. So again, it's a very good program, and given that this is the first year this opportunity will run, and given that we are given this 40% scholarship this year, I would encourage all the people here from Humber to seriously have a look at it and to make their applications through KOM, and hopefully we can send you out some provisional offer letters. So just going through some of the other questions. Can you explain how pathways work with all colleges, going from diploma in year 3 and year 4 honours? That's from M. Bryce. Okay, so basically, Colleges Ontario and our representative organisation, Institute of Technology Ireland, formed an agreement a couple of years ago to facilitate student exchange. And to be quite honest, it is at this stage one-way traffic. We have established a number of programs with some of our Canadian partners to encourage two-way partnerships, but the vast majority of the student traffic is from Canada into Ireland. Any student who's completed a diploma or a 3-year advanced diploma with a Colleges Ontario college, depending on how their curriculum is set up, they're in the vast majority of cases, particularly in IT Carlow, I can't speak for other colleges with a degree of authority, but we would look very favourably at their application to give them advanced entry. So if you've done a 2-year diploma, for example, we would take you into year 3 of our degree programme. And what you have in Ireland in terms of our degree classification is the Irish education system is divided into 10 levels. Level 1 is like kindergarten, level 10 is PhD. So IT Carlow offers qualifications all the way from level 6 to level 10. Alright? We offer 2 types of degrees. One is level 7. So a diploma student with a 2-year diploma going into year 3 can conceivably exit at the end of year 3 with a level 7 ordinary degree. The option is also open for them to continue on and do an additional year and get their honours degree with an additional year of study. Okay. The second option of the opportunity open to Canadian students, and this is by far the most popular one I've witnessed, is that anybody who's completed an advanced diploma can get entry into year 4 of an honours degree. Okay, so only 9 months to get an honours degree. Okay, so we're giving full credit transfer for the qualifications that you've studied. Okay, now what you'll generally find is there's a limited range of pathways agreed between Colleges Ontario and Institute of Technology Ireland. At the moment, a lot of what I'm working on is reaching out to individual colleges to do individual pathways with those colleges. So at the moment, we're up to in the region of nearly 70 pathways that we've either agreed or are in discussions for. But one point I want to stress in this webinar is the point that if you've studied a diploma or an advanced diploma, irregardless whether there's a pathway in place, still submit your application to us through KOM, and I would be very confident, depending on the subject you've studied, that will give you advanced entry. So don't let the fact that there's no official pathway in place prevent you from making an application. The only reason there mightn't be a pathway in place is because we haven't got round to talking to your college, or for the simple reason that maybe your college doesn't want to agree a pathway. But we will look on applications on a case-by-case basis. And the vast majority of students who are studying with us at the moment submitted their documents, and we assessed them for advanced entry. And nearly all of the students studying with us, I can't think of one application this year from Canada where this didn't apply. They all got advanced entry and they all got full credit transfer. Okay, so hopefully, Bryce, that answers your question. But again, if it doesn't, please go back to Derek and Martin and the team in KOM, and I'm more than happy to speak with you on a one-to-one basis and go through it with you. You might drop a question again there and just let me know what you're studying, and maybe I can address it more directly. There's a question in from James Logan about accommodation. So James, in Carlow, as I mentioned earlier on, it's a relatively small town. It's a student-centric town. And the options that are open to students, we don't have any on-campus accommodation, okay? And what we say to our students is there's houses and apartments all within walking distance of the college. There's a couple of privately owned student villages at the back of the college, but the vast majority of our students live in houses, rented houses, or in apartment blocks, okay? A number of students also take the option of living with an Irish family, so a homestay option. We have a relatively small office, so our resource is kind of a bit stretched in terms of the level of support we can give students in their accommodation search. So the thing, any student that comes to IT Carlow, there's an accommodation section on our website, and in the middle of that page you'll find a list of links that will give you access to a number of websites that allow you to start finding accommodation. Now, if you're looking for accommodation in Carlow, and worst case scenario, you're not in a position to find something, or you're not happy to do it online or do it virtually, we have a number of bed and breakfasts close to the college, okay? We have discounted rates for the students that stay there. And so in your first week in Carlow, we would encourage you to book into the bed and breakfast, and we have people going around to assist students with helping them find accommodation, okay? So the level of reassurance I can give you is that everybody gets sorted out in the end, okay? And while we'd certainly love to be in a position to maybe hold the students' hands more when it comes to searching for accommodation, we just don't have that resource. We don't understand each student's budget. We don't understand each student's requirement. It becomes quite complex and messy. So we leave it up to the students to find out sort out their own accommodation. And again, going back to what I mentioned at the very beginning, that's all part of the learning process, learning to stand on your own 2 feet and find your accommodation. And I would also encourage you to think maybe broadly about, don't look at it in a negative light. Look at it as a positive challenge and an opportunity to maybe move in with some Irish students or international students and fully immerse yourself in Irish culture. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question for you. And Bryce, I just see your question now. Can I apply to OSAP? Yeah, I'm not sure how OSAP actually works in terms of what criteria you have to meet, but like I say, the vast majority of our Canadian students do get access to OSAP funding. We also have a student from Saskatchewan as well, and he's also getting funding from his provincial government for studying in IT Carlow. So it's always worth exploring these things. And like I mentioned earlier on as well, we are CRA approved. We are offering scholarships this year, but only from the School of Built Environment. So Bryce, if you've studied civil engineering, quantity surveying, architectural technology, you are entitled to a scholarship, and I would encourage you to liaise directly with Derek and Martin at KOM and to get details off them in more detail. Just so you're aware, Any students outside of Canada pay fees of €9,750. Canadian students pay $7,500. So nearly every Canadian student that comes here already gets a discount, a scholarship in terms of their fees. And the other thing I'd like to stress at this point as well is compare our fees to other markets around the world, and you'll generally find that we're quite good value comparative to other markets. Okay, so let's see. So okay, Humber Architecture mentioned a question about RAIC. What I mentioned was, maybe got the acronym wrong, the Royal Institute of Architects Ireland. They give their badge of, they accredit our courses essentially. So what that means is that for a lot of employers who are looking to hire in that area, they will generally recognise the quality of an IT Carlow graduate. And I think that's the important thing about having professional bodies accredit our programs. So again, if you, for the students that are on here from Humber, for example, have a look at the program, have a look at the special features section of the program, and you'll see the professional accreditations that are associated with our architectural technology degree. Again, that's there to give you a sense of the quality that underpins the program, and it's also there to give you a sense of reassurance around the employment prospects that lie at the end. Okay, so I've been asked to expand on questions around business areas, social work, early childhood education, engineering. Lots of students asking about these areas. So, for anybody who's done a diploma in an advanced diploma in social work or in early childhood education, for example, under the General Colleges Ontario IOTI agreement, all of those graduates are entitled to advanced entry into our programs. Okay, now, again, my advice is to make your application as early as possible through KOM for these programs. You will be working in a professional setting as part of your program, so it is important that you get police clearance for this program. Okay, so my advice for anybody considering those particular programs is to apply as early as possible and make sure that you undertake all the due diligence that's required for that program. IT Carlow, in terms of engineering, offers a number of degrees. So we will be quite well known in the Irish market for offering a degree in aircraft systems. We offer a degree in aero engineering. The reason we're well known in the Irish market is that we're the only college in Ireland to have our own aircraft hangar. We opened it a couple of years ago. It represented an investment of nearly $5.5–6 million. We have our own fleet of aircraft. We have a jet engine. We have the word's gone out of my mind at the moment. We have a helicopter on site as well. And so again, for anybody who has a diploma in aircraft from any of the Canadian colleges, it means that you can enter into year 3 of our aircraft systems degree program, and then you also have the option of studying for an additional year to do aero engineering, which will give you a broader degree, which is very much scoped around the whole area of design. So that's a really good opportunity for anybody in that area. We also offer degrees in mechanical engineering, electronic engineering, and civil engineering, which I mentioned earlier on. Gives you scholarships. So anybody who's done a diploma, advanced diploma in electronic engineering or in mechanical engineering, have a look again on our website. But get your transcripts into KOM. Even if you haven't completed the program, that's not necessary for us. We can assess it on your what you've studied so far and your average GPA, and we can hopefully offer you programs. In terms of business, we offer pathways across international business, accountancy and finance, business management, HRM, supply chain management. So for any of the business students who are listening to this webinar, it's quite a broad offering that we have for our students, for business graduates. So anybody with a diploma or advanced diploma, it's quite broad in terms of the offering that IT Carlow can offer you. And one of the things I want to stress as well is, even if we have, even if your program doesn't quite match the degrees that we have, I would still submit an application, because we will look at what you've studied on your existing program, and if there's a strong degree of crossover in your curriculum, then you may be still entitled to the same degree of credit transfer, and we would give you advanced entry. An example of this would be a student from Durham this year who had a diploma, I think, in music business, and we were able to give him entry into our level 7 degree program in business management. So there are lots of opportunities across our business programs, and similar to what I was mentioning to the Humber students about the professional accreditation, particularly in their accountancy and finance programs, a lot of them are linked to ACCA, CPA and CIMA. So again, it has those badges. Our HRM qualification is CIPD approved. So again, validation of the quality of the programs and evidence to prospective students of for prospective employers once they graduate, of the quality of the program. In terms of James Logan is asking a question about looking for part-time jobs. I'm going to answer that very truthfully, James. You are entitled to work 20 hours per week. I would stress that if you're coming to Carlow, you're there to study, but you are legally entitled to work 20 hours per week. And the Irish government do have a minimum wage, which is, to the best of my knowledge, very strictly enforced. And, in terms of finding a job, there's lots of student websites, there's Student Union, there's a Student Union Facebook page, but it depends on your, I suppose, how hard you want to try and find a part-time job. Okay, you maybe have to be prepared to put in a bit of hard work, going around the town, handing in your CVs, and very much being open to the opportunities that are out there. But in my experience, those students that look hard enough will find a job, if you really want one. My preference for international students, and it's easy for me to say, is that hopefully you have enough financial resource that you don't have to rely on a part-time job to get you through. And that if you get a part-time job and you come here, it's an additional bonus. And the reason I say that is that I want people to kind of immerse themselves in study. Coming into year 3 or year 4 of a degree, it's academically it's tough to settle in, and for that 8 or 9 months, if it was my son or daughter doing it, I'd rather see them focus on their study. But again, I appreciate that for everybody that's not always the case. I had to work part-time while I was studying, and there's lots of shops and small businesses close to the college where you can look for jobs. But I don't want to give you the expectation that there's loads and loads and loads of part-time jobs out there. That's not the case. But if you're diligent in your search and you adopt the right mindset, there's absolutely no reason why you can't find a job. M. Bryce is asking a question: what is the cost in Canadian dollars for 1 year of tuition? So again, it varies from time to time. So let me just do a quick search. So at the moment, 7,500 euros is about 10,400 Canadian dollars. I see that go up and I see that go down. Okay, I'm at the moment I have a couple of students coming into me for their tuition. So the what you have there at the moment, and Bryce, is 11,300. The quick calculation I've done is that at the moment it's 10,400. But the biggest thing to remember is that when you're making your payment to IT Carlow, is that on the day itself, it's what the exchange rate is at that time. That's important. And there's no point trying to second guess it, because if you get into that type of mentality, you'll torture yourself trying to save money. One of the things, again, I want to maybe stress is for any student who gets OSAP funding, or any of the Canadian students who are interested in applying to Carlow, we're a government-funded institute, okay? We're not run for profit. We provide a public service, okay? And because of that, we have a degree of flexibility when it comes to payment from Canadian students. So, in order to accept your place in IT Carlow, we accept a deposit of 1,000 euros, okay? And for those of you who are in receipt of OSAP funding, for example, that gives you a degree of flexibility that when your OSAP funding becomes available and is drawn down, you can pay us then, okay? So this is something that often comes up in June, July and August when students are making their applications to us. So our International Affairs Manager, Don McAllister, has signed off on this, that he will allow Canadian students to pay a €1,000 deposit, and that will cover your deposit, and you can pay us the balance when you actually arrive in Carlow. Okay, we're not mercenary. We're not gonna find out where you live and go dragging you from your bed kicking and screaming. We take a very flexible approach and a very humane approach to the areas of student finance. So, is there a minimum GPA entry? Yeah, for a lot of our programs, minimum GPA is, I think it's 60%, so which I think is equivalent to 3.0. So, for some courses, for example, we have two students from St. Lawrence down in our Wexford campus that I mentioned earlier on doing visual communications. They might have had to provide a portfolio for assessment. But for you guys from Humber, for example, the agreement between your college and IT Carlow has been agreed in principle. So for the most part, you should be okay. So no problem, then, Bryce. I see you just have a good evening too. And I see KOM are kind of prompting me there to say, look, if you do, I'm going to stay in line for a few more minutes if you want to maybe go through a few more other things with IT Carlow that maybe I cut short to address some of the questions, particularly from some of the guys from Humber. But again, I want to stress that this is just an opportunity for me to interact with some of the students. I will be over, my plan is to be over in Canada in the end of January. But, I love speaking with students on a one-to-one basis. So if you want to reach out to Derek or Martin or Sue or Amelia in KOM, I'm more than happy to have a one-to-one chat with you on the phone or with your parents or via Skype. Sometimes students are more comfortable asking me questions on a one-to-one basis, and there is no such thing as a stupid question. I know some students, a question came up there recently from a student who has Crohn's disease, for example. So I was able to address their concerns in a very sensitive manner. So there's no such thing as a stupid question, and I'm more than happy to address any questions on a one-to-one basis if you don't want to do it here through a public forum. KOM also just prompted me to say, can students start applying for September 2017? Absolutely, and I fully encourage, the sooner you start the ball rolling, the better it is. When it comes into the summertime, that becomes a very busy time for us, and the sooner you start the process, the better it is for all concerned. The other thing that happens in the summertime is that our academics also start to take annual leave, and so it can be a bit more difficult to get decisions made. So this time of year is absolutely ideal. KOM do not charge for their service. IT Carlow do not charge for processing your applications. So my advice is get your applications in. The sooner the better. And even if you ultimately decide that you don't want to come to Carlow, or that you decide you don't want to come abroad at all, still get your application in, because at least when you have a provisional offer letter in your hand, you have an option. Okay, but at the moment, while you're thinking about it, you don't have the option. But once your application is in, you have the option. Okay. Just see a message there from James. James, no problem at all, James. Thanks for participating, and hopefully I've answered your questions. But if not, again, as I've been mentioning, okay. Actually, I do have one other question. One more question to do with other expenses other than tuition. What do these amounts need to be? Okay, good question, James, and I'm glad you brought it up. We estimate it can cost anywhere between 6,000 and 8,000 euros on top of your tuition to cover living expenses. Okay, so that figure is at the low end if you live a quiet life. It's probably at the high end if you live the high life. So, but generally you can live quite well in terms of accommodation. In terms of food, there's lots of supermarkets close to the college. There's 2 supermarkets very close to the college. They're called discounter stores, Lidl and Aldi. They're German stores, and you can do quite a lot of shopping in there for about 50 euros. You can get a whole week's shop, maybe even 2 weeks shopping if you're really good at shopping in those stores. We also have a Tesco store close by. I mentioned earlier on that IT Carlow, everything is within walking distance, so your transportation costs are going to be very, very low. And your accommodation costs, it'll vary. It'll depend on, do you want an ensuite? Are you prepared to share a bedroom? Where are you prepared to live? Things like that will all make a difference. But again, going back to what I was saying a couple of minutes ago about applying earlier, the sooner you start the process of applying and looking for accommodation, the better it is in the long run. Okay, when you actually end up in Carlow, we have an international office and we are staff there, and our sole purpose is to ensure that you have a good experience when you do come to IT Carlow. So I'd fully encourage you to, if you do become a student of IT Carlow, is to use the service that's there available to you and to engage with our students. Okay, so KOM are prompting me to maybe shut up shop. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, it's been an interesting evening. It's a bit unusual speaking into a camera on my own. I feel a bit like Tom Hanks in Lost at the moment, but hopefully I've covered a lot of your questions and queries that you've had. Again, I'm going to stress the point that we have a very narrow window of opportunity, and a lot about what I spoke about at the beginning is a presentation that myself and Donal, and with input from Derek and the team from Martin and the KO team at KOM, into thinking about the types of things that we need to do for trying to get into the mindset of a Canadian student and address the issues and concerns that they might have about coming to IT Carlow, but we can't always get it right. So that's why this webinar is an opportunity to maybe encourage to think about the types of questions and queries that students will have for us. And the other thing I'd like to say is, for the Humber guys, I know 5 or 6 of you replied to go online today. I'm very excited about this new pathway that we've agreed, and I hope to have the paperwork finalized by the end of the week. And so again, I would encourage you guys to start making your application. the other thing, Derek and his team are encouraging me to Derek might hit me now if I get this right, but I think I'll be over in. My intention is to be over in Canada from the 23rd of January until maybe the 3rd of February. Although I think I probably might be returning on the 1st of February, depending on personal circumstances. And we will be attending a number of roadshows. Now, if it's a thing that KOM and IT Carlow aren't attending your college during that time, it doesn't really matter, because KOM provide a brilliant service and have been very helpful to IT Carlow and to the students that they've sent us in the last year. So even if we don't attend your college, you can still call into their office, and you can still speak with Derek and Martin and their team and make applications to IT Carlow. And KOM are represented on site. I think they go around 3 or 4 times a year to nearly every college. So there are plenty of opportunities to engage with their team and to make applications to come study in IT Carlow. Okay, guys. So look, listen. I really appreciate your time and attention this evening. I really hope this was a useful exercise for you guys. I hope, compared to where you were maybe an hour ago, that you're better educated about Ireland as a market, about the opportunities from an employment perspective of studying abroad. I think only 3% of Canadian students come abroad, so there's not that many of you that do take the plunge to come study abroad. So I hope some of you guys are some of the brave few that do venture abroad, and I really hope it's been a useful session. And thanks to KOM and the team there for organising this session. And hopefully it's been a useful exercise for you guys. And we hopefully will see you in the new year, and if not in the new year, I wish each and every one of you all the very best for the future. Thanks very much. Good night.